Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Haribo, good job as always. I just found that you can give a reaction here, so I'm going to put in clapping hands.
That's great.
I don't know where it comes up, but anyway.
Yeah, we can see through.
You can see it? Okay, good. I heard some other voices, Benita and Xian there also off to the side.
Yeah,
Who was playing the drum?
Vinita was playing the drums.
Oh, okay. All right, good. Family effort. Haribo, Haribo.
So now we can read the verse.
Please do. Yes.
We can read the translation. I'll read the transcript. So today we are reading 1.1.17. Tasya karmani udrani
Tasya karmani udrani
parigitana surabhi
parigitana surabhi
bruhina shraddhananam
bruhina
Shadadhananam.
Laya dadhat kala.
Lilaya Dadatkala. His transcendental acts are magnificent and gracious, and great learned sages like Narad sing of them. Please therefore speak to us, who are eager to hear about the adventures he performs in his various incarnations. Purport. The personality of Godhead is never inactive, as some less intelligent persons suggest. His works are magnificent and magnanimous. His creations, both material and spiritual, are wonderful and contain all variegatedness. They are described nicely by such liberated souls as Srila Narad, Vyas, Valmiki, Devala, Asita, Madhava, Sri Chaitanya, Ramanuja, Vishnu Swami, Nimbaraka, Sridhar, Vishwanath, Baladev, Bhakti Vinod, Siddhanta Saraswati, and many other learned souls and self-realized souls. These creations, both material and spiritual, are full of opulence, beauty, and knowledge. But the spiritual realm is more magnificent due to its being full of knowledge, bliss, and eternity. The material creations are manifested for some time as perverted shadows of the spiritual kingdom can be likened to cinemas. They attract people of less intelligent caliber who are attracted by false things. Such foolish men have no information of the reality, and they take it for granted that the false material manifestation is the all in all. But more intelligent men, guided by sages like Vyas and Narad, know that the eternal kingdom of God is more delightful, larger, and eternally full of bliss and knowledge. Those who are not conversant with the activities of the Lord and his transcendental realm are sometimes favored by the Lord in his, adventures as incarnations, wherein he displays the eternal bliss of his association in the transcendental realm. By such activities, he attracts the conditioned souls of the material world. Some of these conditioned souls are engaged in the false enjoyment of material sense, and others in simply negating their real life in the spiritual world. These less intelligent persons are known as karmis, or fruitive workers, and jnanis, or dry mental speculators. But above these two classes of men is the transcendentalist, known as sattva, or the devotee, who is busy neither with the rampant material activity nor with the material speculation. He is engaged in the positive service of the Lord and thereby derives the highest spiritual benefit unknown to the karmis and yanis. As the supreme controller of both the material and spiritual worlds, the Lord has different incarnations of unlimited categories. Incarnations like Brahma, Rudra, Manu, Prithu, and Vyasa are his material qualitative incarnations, but his incarnations like Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, and Vaman are his transcendental incarnations. Lord Shri Krishna is the fountainhead of all incarnations, and he is therefore the cause of all causes.
Do you understand?
So the transcendental qualities of the Lord, they have, I guess, many facets, but this verse specifically describes one of those as being his incarnations, which have kind of two levels. So the first level would be his incarnations of Brahma, Rudra, Manu, etc., which are more material beings and don't display like all of his transcendental qualities and aren't like the full package. And other of his incarnations like Ram, Nrsimha, etc., they show his full qualities, and those are the ones that attract even those people that are lesser of knowledge, right? Like there's some stories that everyone is attracted to, no matter how deep you are in the philosophy. So
Charvo, you're on mute.
Kapil, does Dad have something to add to the comments of the son?
Probably this reminds.
Ara just spoke. Now let's hear from Brahma.
This verse reminds me the second half of the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. I think around the 39th to maybe 41st verse, Krishna talks about Buddhi Yoga. And then I think in the 44th or 45th verse, Krishna reiterates the message, Trigunyo Nistriya Vega, that verse that talks about the three modes of material nature. And Krishna says that Vedas normally talks about, not normally, mainly talks about the three natures of material world. But you need to rise above that and then try to understand that what is the main object of this reading. Because there's a lot of emphasis given to knowing the Supreme, knowing about his magnanimity. But I think in the process, somehow people lose the main motive, which is knowing him and then serving him also, and then loving him also. I think if we know everything, but the true knowledge is knowing about him and then loving and serving him. And there was a very nice message that Prabhupada gave in the purport is when you love and when you know someone, you make time for him. And if you make time for him, then he will for sure make time for you. So make time for Krishna and Krishna will make time for you. I think that is again the reiteration in the purport that when you know the qualitative incarnations and then the incarnations that are same in the quality and the quantity, and then you also learn about those pastimes one help you develop the love, but also the true knowledge that the main objective of all this philosophy and the reading is to loving him and serving him.
So then in India, why is there so much Krishna depiction in movies, films, and so on and so forth, and yet the main point of loving and serving him is missed? How do you explain that?
So everyone takes
entertainment.
See, I think in our scripture it says that you focus on whatever is favorable for you in the path of bhakti, and you reject what is not favorable for unfavorable. But I think that the question that you are asking is almost the other way around, where people, they only focus on what is in it for me, and they take it that part, and what is easier for me to one talk about and to follow. But then, as we say, that this path is very simple path, but it's not easy. There will be a lot of impediments. You only pick the thing that you like to follow and you like to talk about.
Everybody has their favorite story of Krishna. So then what do you think? Let's see, Rakesh, what do you think would be ideal? India is a place where there's certainly a lot of representation of Krishna. Businesses are named after Radha and Krishna. There's many movies and films about Krishna. They're very popular. So what's the difference between, say, ourselves who are exposed to Krishna information and we dedicate our lives to that, and others who just take it as not essential, not central to their lifestyles?
So Prabhuji, I was having a little hard time hearing. Kids were also saying so. So I couldn't understand the question. Can you? I'm sorry about that, but can you summarize and like what is the question? Can you just
Well, the
ask
verse
it
says
again?
that Krishna's activities are magnificent and gracious, and we all accept that. And
Yes.
when they have the Ramayana or the Krishna series in India, when it first came out 24 years ago by Raman Sagar, the whole country stopped, and everybody was riveted 1 hour a week to the latest episode of Krishna or Ram. So people appreciate the magnificence, the the gracious acts of Krishna, but why is it that mostly the transcendental part is missed, and it's just taken lightly as entertainment, more or less?
I think Prabhuji, like the serials or the movies, people and including myself, like as Kapil Bhai said that bhakti it's easy to perform, but it's not that easy to understand. There has to be a connect, and you have to be at a certain level. So including me, it's not that easy for even me to understand. But connecting to that drama, that movie, or the entertainment part, it's easy. But the real pastimes of Krishna, or the real essence of Krishna bhakti, I think it's not that easy for the people to connect, and that's why it's not that popular like those movies, or his like the the pastimes where he killed the demons and those things. So that is how I understand. Probably people are not at that level. Probably they are not blessed from their previous karma in their previous life, or they are not like associated with the devotees, not blessed by the guru, so they can understand that. So that is my understanding, that probably that's why that part is not that popular as compared to the just the entertainment part. So like they say, even in Bhagavad Gita, sometimes people try to jump cantos and go read the later cantos, or sometimes go read the Rasa Leela, and it's strictly advised that do not do that, because you have to get the blessing, read the cantos step by step, so that you will get the blessings from the Guru Parampara, and or you will also be eligible to understand that thing. So if you directly jump and try to read the Ras Leela canto, you will never understand that. Yeah, so that's my 2 cents on it. Probably that's the reason why that thing is not that popular.
Ishan, you had something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something. I agree, like that. Well, I kind of think that it's for like the sake of entertainment. Like, it's kind of like a lot of the stories of Krishna are like a good package of like horror and action and like the other genres of movies. So when you watch or like these episodes, they're like specifically altered to make it more dramatic and so that you like, I guess they're more visually pleasing. So a lot of like the essence of the story or the point or the moral or whatever you're going to call it, a lot of that is taken out so that they can, you know, just show how much more dramatic, etc. Another thing is that when a lot of people watch them or make their businesses named after like these shows or characters, it's not because they like specifically believe, it's more so that they themselves can be blessed and like their businesses will last longer, and not because they want to connect with Krishna, rather they want Krishna to connect with them so they can get more money.
Well, that explains the phenomenon, how people are so Krishna conscious in one sense, but at the same time not rushing to serve him. I was hearing something interesting, that the Mahabharata has a different emphasis than the Srimad Bhagavatam. In fact, even after writing the Mahabharata and the four Vedas, Narad came to Vyasadeva and told him, Jagupsadam Dharma Kritena Shashita Shabhava Raktasya Mahan Advakato Ditara Namanyate Tasha Niraram Jaraha, said people are inclined to enjoy, and they'll take religion as a means to increase their enjoyment. Dharma, Artha, Karma, Moksha. So Narada Muni tells Vyasadeva that even after compiling all the Vedic literatures, including the Mahabharata, you're still despondent because you haven't dissuaded them from taking religion for enjoyment. In fact, you've done a disservice because you've increased their use of religion for material enjoyment. And that's where we find the essential difference between the Bhagavatam and the Mahabharata. Even the Mahabharata itself is more about developing character, transforming, making this world a better place to live, role models in Yudhishthira, Arjuna, and others. But the Mahabharata doesn't so much point you to transcendence. In the Mahabharata, Krishna plays a supporting role. He plays a role in restoring the Pandavas to their kingdom, in righting wrongs, in promoting the devotees, and reestablishing religious principles. But Krishna is not the main character. I mean, he is, but the plot revolves around the trials and tribulations of the Pandavas. But if you go to the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna is the main character, and he's transcendent. He has his own Vaikuntha as well as the Goloka Vrindavan worlds. And when you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, you're right, Ishan, it's not as readable as the Mahabharata because it's not like a screenplay. It's not about the action or the plot, it's about the devotion. And it's about leaving this world and going to be with Krishna in the transcendental world. Whereas the Mahabharata has its strong points. Like if you're a parent, you want your child to learn all these stories of Krishna and Ram because it builds character and it's transformative. But just by reading Mahabharata and Ramayana, you're not like launched to the spiritual world. What do you think? Anybody can jump in.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
Does anybody have any comments on this question or the verse in general? You may have looked at it during the week and had some thoughts that you could share with us now.
You want a comment on the verse?
Please.
But what about the other devotees? I don't want to be the first one or the second one.
Well, just make us a succinct comment that will inspire us to say more.
So you want me to go now?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be elaborate, just something that you're a personal realization that you'd like to share with us.
Okay, so here it goes. This verse is being spoken by sages And what is the theme of the verse? The sages are speaking about God being great, but not alone. God being great and having around, like around him or because of him, learned sages, great sages like Narada, singing about how great God is. And then these same sages who are speaking this verse, they have this eagerness for hearing. So, and my realization is that they, just because they are speaking about how great Narada Muni is, just because he's chanting about how great God is, these sages are trying to follow in the footsteps of Narada Muni. So in the synonyms we find that this eagerness for hearing is the same as hearing with respect. And I went to the dictionary to see at least what is the meaning of respect. And one of the meanings that is in harmony with this verse is that unless you know what the price is in terms of exchanging with whatever, an object or a person, and here we are talking about God, unless you pay the price, you know what the price is, and unless you pay the price, you cannot exchange with God. And the price for you to be recognized as respectable is humility. So it is special to me to see that that the message of this verse is that unless you are, and where can you buy humility? Where can you get this humility for you to pay the price to be in intimate association with God? Humility is available only when you submit yourself to the training of the spiritual master, because the spiritual master has the power to put you in touch with how great God is, with the great one, the greatest one. And just because we are parts and parcels of God, when we are in touch with how great God is, because of the mercy of the spiritual master, then we have no alternative other than to feel ourselves small and humble. So connection with Krishna through the spiritual master is absolutely necessary, and for us to be able to pay the price to be in connection with God. And that is one of the messages of this verse. And related to the...
Let's just take that message right now. I think that was a nice presentation. You put some thought in it. You put some preparation. And in fact, even though what the spiritual master says is totally authorized by the scriptures, the spiritual master is giving us information that we would not otherwise have access to it. The spiritual master is pure in character, free from sinful activities. Still, that is the single biggest stumbling block for people in general to accept devotional service. They say, well, I'd rather do some other more difficult practice like yoga or mental speculation. They say bhakti is too easy. And Prabhupada says, well, if bhakti is so easy, why don't you do it? Why are you taking the hard path? And the reason is they don't want to surrender, even to somebody that is a perfected being, even to somebody that they recognize. Give them the benefit of the doubt, give them all credit. They can recognize that here is a pure devotee, here is someone sterling in character, here is someone who is in line with all the scriptures. Still, I don't want to surrender to anybody else. And so that's what makes bhakti hard. Otherwise, all the elements are there, all the ingredients are there, everything that you need to achieve love of God and go back to home, it's God, it is there. But people can't surrender even to a perfected being. There's so much pride and self-consciousness available today. I remember we had one volunteer stay here for a few months, and he was a spiritual dabbler, went from here to there. And I remember him talking to a visitor one day and overhearing something that he said to the visitor, talking about his current spiritual master. So-and-so is my current spiritual master. So Prabhupada said choosing a spiritual guide is not like a box of chocolates. You know, there's not a flavor of the week. It's a permanent thing. If you as a permanent spiritual being want to get linked up to the permanent Lord of all the worlds, then you have to make a permanent connection with a bona fide representative of Lord. So Vijaya Krishna will have your second part of your comments a little bit later. But now we're so happy to have Govinda Dev join us after a long hiatus. We're eager to hear his voice and to have him share his insights on these topics.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Be back on Sunday morning Sanga. You might be able to tell from my white shirt that church is up and running again. So I'm late because every other week we're going to be having church for 45 minutes to an hour, and it starts at 10. So that's why I'm late. I'm sorry I'm late this morning. Let me just report to everyone. You all have great fondness, I know, for Nityananda Vilas Prabhu and his family. And I had the great fortune to be able to arrange some time to meet with him just a few days ago at the Seattle Temple. We did Mangal Arti, or the evening Arti together. And it was really, really great to be there. I met an associate of Charu's, Hari Vilas Maharaj, who is the temple president there. They were extremely hospitable, and that was really a great experience for me, because I had been out basically camping for 10 days, no devotee association, and then all of a sudden I was in the vortex. It was really...
I'll bet there was extra reasons for them to social distance from you as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, just look at me.
I got the picture of the prasadam you were having, so I got the picture.
I'll send a picture of the prasadam.
I saw the picture, so Haribol.
You did? It was unbelievable the way they treated me there. I mean, literally, I felt like they just treated me like a king. I was so humbled by their kindness, and they're just doing...
It goes to show that you can't hide fire.
I would make one comment on this, what you were talking about, Charu, this idea of surrender. I mean, I think every one of us knows that that's the formula. That's the secret. You really do have to surrender. That's the end of Bhagavad Gita. That's the core of all instructions. Surrender your will. And I mean, what I have discovered in my I'm more Krishna conscious, recognizing that is the path, that is what must be done. It's when you start to take it on seriously, and sometimes I question myself if I've even really done that yet, if you know what I mean. I think it's quite challenging, simple but very difficult, because become increasingly aware so many attachments, so many things that are a distraction. And sometimes I catch myself in the course of the day and say, I'm not surrendered at all. I'm not really being Krishna conscious. The there's at one level, there's making the mental commitment and trying to exercise force of will to try to be, that you're going to be a surrendered soul. But the actual doing of it, you can't really retreat forcibly. I mean, it's kind of hard to like, it's not like lifting weights where you exercise your will. I mean, it's really this process of becoming more humble, more submissive, recognizing that really everything is in Krishna's control anyway, is just this like letting go, which I think it's very challenging. And I guess my point is that at least for me, in the process of trying to advance spiritually, it's necessary to be as mindful as I can of how much I'm really not surrendered. And it shows up, sort of everywhere and in terms of all activities. And I realize, you're so proud and arrogant and egotistical. You really think very highly of yourself. All of that stuff keeps coming up. So I'm appreciative of the reminder. Surrender is not so easy. Great to have so many wonderful examples of that, many of which are on.
Speaking of wonderful examples, when I think of somebody who's just really settled and peaceful and at rest in the posture of surrender to their guru, I just turn here to the middle right of my screen and look at Amrita Sundari, and I would love to have her talk on the subject, because she's the personification of peace and wisdom and tranquility and joy. Only thing is, I can only see the top half of her head. I need to see the rest of that smiling face. All right.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. My obeisances to all the devotees. Sorry I joined late. Our internet's been having a lot of problems. So I missed the conversation. But as I was reading about the verse, Prabhuji, I was reminded of the benediction. Prithu Maharaj asks Lord Krishna. So the Lord comes to his Yagyashala. It's a very beautiful story. If any one of you have not read it, you should read it. It's a very sweet story. King Prithu performed 99 yagyas, and he was going to perform his 100th, and Indra got envious, and he tried to stop the yagya in many ways. And then finally, Lord Brahma came and told Prithu that you should stop the 100th yagya because you don't need it. You're on path of pure devotional service to Krishna. And Maharaj Prithu agreed. It might sound, I was thinking about it, it might sound like, oh, it was easy for him to do because he was so exalted. But all of us are faced with these kind of choices in our life where we have to choose between our ego or our reputation. He had a big yagya, he had priests engaged in, he had denizens from different heavenly planets attend the yagya. And Lord Brahma tells him to stop the yagya, and he does. And the Supreme Lord is very happy with Prithu Maharaj, and he comes and he asks, after glorifying him and instructing him, he says, please ask me any benediction. And Prithu Maharaj says this very beautiful verse. It's 4th canto, 20th chapter, and verse number 25. So I'll read the translation. My dear Lord, you are glorified by the selected verses uttered by great personalities. Such glorification of your lotus feet is just like saffron particles. When the transcendental vibration from the mouths of great devotees carries the aroma of the saffron dust of your lotus feet, the forgetful living entity gradually remembers his eternal relationship with you. Devotees thus gradually come to the right conclusion about the value of life. My dear Lord, I therefore do not need any other benediction, but the opportunity to hear from the mouth of your pure devotee. So it's very wonderfully described how when a pure devotee speaks about the stories of Krishna or his pastimes or his glories, his voice carries the saffron dust from the lotus feet of the Lord. And when that voice enters our ears and our hearts, then it transforms everything. So, we have all read alone, also reading Srimad Bhagavatam is very relishing. But when we come together and when we glorify Krishna, it's especially very, very sweet. And it just uplifts you immediately. It just reinstates, like how George Prabhu said, he keeps checking how he is on the path to surrender. And the moment you hear Krishna's glories, you become helpless. Your vision changes, your mood changes, and we are very, very always grateful whenever we can get association. It's certainly the most powerful blessings you could ever ask for, hearing Krishna Katha in association of devotees. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So it's so powerful and so nectarine that it could even overcome our natural reticence to surrender to other people. We're going through so much political turmoil now, and there's one person who would like us all to surrender to him and be subservient to him. And those who are intelligent are resisting that, quite rightly. If you bow down or give up your freedoms to an ordinary man who has lusty motives, you're going to be cheated of everything. And so that scrutiny, that reticence is natural. It's good. It's self-preservative for anybody with intelligence. But like you said, the saffron dust from the lotus feet of the topics of the Lord is so powerful and so alluring that we decide this is different. It's surrender, but it's not surrender to an ordinary, limited, conditioned, self-centered living entity like myself. It's surrender to my all-powerful, loving Father who created me, and without whom I couldn't even get through 1 minute of any single day. Everything I am, everything I do, my family, everything depends upon His goodwill. In fact, my life is composed of His goodwill. And it brings us to the point of acknowledging that, accepting that, and then full-heartedly surrendering to His bona fide representative. Very nice points. Sundari Priya, do you want to weigh in here?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Sundari Priya is also an initiated devotee, Radhanath Swami, and where Amrita Sundari is very wise and very much peaceful. We immediately get those impressions by associating with her. Sundari Priya is very active, very passionate. She's always at the temple, always doing arti, always helping with the deity worship, always the flower gardens, always greeting guests and visitors. And so surrender doesn't just have one face. It has as many people, as many individuals there's as many flavors of surrender. So Sundari Priya.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled devotees. This is nothing, just we are doing a portion of what Srila Prabhupada expects us to do. And if we do what he asks us to do and really understand these verses, our life would have been different. So in this verse, I think, first of all, from the technical point of view, this is the fourth question that the sages asked, and the sages asked that describe to us the Lord's adventures and the various incarnations, the Purusha avatars of the Lord. So that is one of the most important thing that Srila Jiva Goswami said, that this is the Purusha, all the Purusha avatars are mentioned in this purport by Srila Prabhupada. And when we go back in the history of all the avatars and how they perform their leelas, Lord Ram and Lord Chaitanya, all these Valmiki, all these beautiful sages that we see, their life is so perfect. And why are we not attracted to it? I'm again intrigued by that question, because I think we want instant gratification. We are so conditioned to, why is McDonald's is more popular than somebody who has a fine dining and has the absolute best Govinda prasadam right there? But No, McDonald's still more popular. Why? Because we are so conditioned in our life to enjoy chewing of the chewed. We're so used to getting instant gratification. We're so used to getting garbage that we've been a hog and dog and everything. Even Indra, he came down to earth and he said, wait, and so they reminded him that you're Indra, you're the highest being, and you need to go back to your post and take care of your things, and you have palaces and you have no, let he said, wait, they have just dumped a new garbage and I need to honor that with my family and I want to be there. So if Indra could be so addicted to garbage and the waste, who are we? So we need the mercy, like Mataji said, like Prabhuji said, we need the mercy of pure devotees who can, like Shaunaka rishis and all these rishis are advising, or they're just dragging us, they're dragging us to taste something higher. If Srila Prabhupada had not translated all this in English, I would have never opened a book, never in my life. I know that for sure, and it just because we are able to touch these granthas and take the shelter of them and realize what the process is, at least we've started the process. But in order to stay in the process, we have to, every day there's a choice between Maya or choice between Krishna. And if we know that Krishna is the fountainhead, he's the cause of all causes, then uh, where my moment of that action, that surrender is, so unless and the day I'm low, a devotee picks me up, and that's why devotee association is so important. That reminds me that what is my true nature. And it is painful, it is painful at times to get up and study and not be able to retain, and because we are so conditioned to eating hog and dog and acting like a lower being. But because we've been blessed by the association of devotees, it's the process becomes, in the beginning it's poison, but in the end it becomes nectar. And we are after that, we're not after instant. We've done it, been there, done that, but now it's time to go through the training and say, okay, fine, I believe in the nectar because the acharyas have told me that there is nectar, and I'm not going to argue about that. If I stop, if there's only one life, and like Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj was told by Srila Prabhupada, just give this one life to Krishna. Then what is my problem? So that's why.
Isn't it nice also, isn't it nice too, that here we are, we gather, even during the pandemic, we've been gathering every Sunday at 11 o'clock, regularly seeing each other's faces, sharing insights, deepening our relationships and deepening our connection with Krishna. And if we weren't connected through Krishna consciousness and through Prabhupada and through the disciplic session, we'd only be connected in terms of self-interest. Each one of us would be trying to promote our own personality and try to gain some prominence in the forum, take charge and be a leader and be the most respected and the most admired. And the position of surrender at the lotus feet of the Guru saves you from all of that. And this example that he sets is you give him attention, and it doesn't stop with him. He just passes it up to his guru, who passes it up to his guru and passes it up. So the reason that this works, a society of Krishna conscious people, the reason it works and that it can go on permanently without ego, without conflict, without breakdown, is that each and every one of us deflects. We deflect. We do have talents. There's immense talent among the people I've seen before me, but we don't take credit for that. We recognize that that talent is given us by Krishna, and it's unlocked, it's released in the service of the spiritual master. So none of us will seek to absorb or direct attention to ourselves, but and should it come, we'll deflect it to Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta, and then ultimately up to Krishna. So it's that deflection which makes everything work in our little forum in Salt Lake City and in the greater International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So we talked a little bit about psychology there. We talked about role models, maybe Maslowian role models. We talked about subduing the ego. And so we have to go to our psychologist here, Pavana, to get her reactions. You're still muted, Pavana.
Still muted.
There we go. We hear you now.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Uh-huh.
It says those who are not conversant with the activities of the Lord in his transcendental realm are sometimes favored by the Lord in his adventures as incarnations, wherein he displays the eternal bliss of his association in the transcendental realm. By such activities, he attracts the conditioned souls of the material world. And I think how kind Krishna is to take these conditioned souls and pluck them out and offer himself to them and say, follow me. I will help you. That's what I got out of that.
Great.
He's a wonderful God.
There's a road show. Krishna has his own abode. He has his own devotees, but he takes the trouble to travel from universe to universe to reveal Gokula, which is a reflection of Goloka Vrindavan, in order to attract living entities back to home, back to Godhead. So that's his causeless mercy. It's not as a result of any combination of actions and reactions in this material world. It's an expression of his own pure love for each and every one of us. Radhe Shyam, you have anything, comments?
Oh, Hare Krishna. Yes, Srila Prabhupada said that Krishna consciousness should be heard from the pure devotee, representatives like Narada, Vyasa, and should not be heard. And he was quoting oftentimes the verse. It's called Avaishnava Mukhad Kirnam Putam Harigat Kamritam Shravanam Naiva Karagam Sarvat Shistam Yatapaya. One should not hear anything about Krishna from a non-Vaishnava. Milk tossed by the lips of a serpent has poisonous effect. Similarly, talks about Krishna given by a non-Vaishnava, no matter how great a scholar he might be, also poisonous. So therefore, Prabhupada put his name in his book, Srima Desi Bhaktivedanta Swami, that's authorized in the pure parampara representative. So we are lucky to read those books and cover the Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, I had one fellow tell me many years ago. He said, "Why I have to hear from a specific person? You know, I can hear about Krishna from anywhere. I can go to a man on the street in India and I can hear about Krishna." But you just put your finger on the reason why indiscriminate hearing is dangerous. If one is not a devotee, then one cannot transmit devotion. Unless one is infected with devotion, one will not be able to infect others. In fact, the result of hearing from a non-devotee will be the same analogously as drinking milk. Milk is very nice, but if it's been touched by the lips of a serpent, then that milk, which is otherwise very nice, has poisonous effects. So the topics of Krishna are so exalting, so purifying, that they should be transmitted by someone who is similarly pure. That way you'll get the full benefit. Otherwise, if some impure, non-devotional person presumes to comment on Bhagavatam, and you're so naive as to hear from them, that's going to kill the seed of devotion within your heart. And you don't want to do that. You want to protect it. So Vijay Krishna, all this discussion came from your original points. So we're circling back to you because you had a part 2. So very, very brief.
Yes.
Tell us what your part 2 is, and then we'll go to Govinda for any final comments, any wrap up, and then Kirtan.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you for the opportunity. So as I was saying, we have these sages eager to hear about the greatness of God, following in the footsteps of a great devotee like Narada Muni. And why is it that Narada is great? Because he's singing about the greatest, the great one, God, Lord Krishna. And I want to finalize my contribution using as follows. The very first sentence of the purport says that God is not inactive. And when people think that God is inactive, it's because they have a poor fund of knowledge. The intelligence of these people is not very good. So I want to make a connection very quickly between inactivity and the absence of eagerness for hearing. And I end with the following. Whenever a devotee, in accordance with this first sentence of the purport, whenever a devotee finds himself experiencing a long period of time without hearing from the right sources, something is going wrong with his or her intelligence. Our intelligence should be used in order to mold our lives in such a way that a good use of our intelligence could be there happening. And this good use is, so the symptom is that when our intelligence is acting in such a way that puts us in observance of the priority in terms of action, and this priority is hearing, then I believe, and these sages also believe, that they have the faith that if we do like this, success is guaranteed.
Thank you very much for part 2 of your very well prepared realizations.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. I can see that you put some time into that. Govinda, a wrap up and a kirtan. And I think speak for everybody when we're so happy to have you back in the forum.
Well, thank you, Caru, and everyone. Very nice to be back with everyone here. When I was having dinner with Hari Vilas Maharaj, the two of us seated together in a very large room, just the two of us. We were being served by Nityananda Prabhu. It was a little bit awkward, but what the heck, you just go with it. He was,
do it.
Excuse me?
It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it.
And it just happened to be my turn. He's really just a wonderful devotee, and I felt like I learned a lot just mostly just listening to him talk. But he commented that he lives in a kind of an atheistic part of the country up there in Washington. He's out in the community a lot. He deals a lot with atheistic people. Basically, his message kind of for me was, people make their lives so difficult by constantly maintaining the fiction that they're actually the ones that are doing everything, that they're relying on their mind, they're relying on their activities. And he told me in a very way that I thought was very, very sincere, that when he finally, at a certain point, he just got that what you really need to do, coming back to what we were talking about, is just to surrender and recognize that it's really Krishna that's doing everything anyway. And all we really even have the ability to do is to do our very, very best to satisfy him. And if through our efforts, if through the use of our minds, we can actually satisfy the Lord, then you get the realization. Krishna will teach you through the heart. This is not me. This is what I just learned. Everything becomes clear, and you have that kind of sense of connection and peace. But people keep fighting by indulging in the egotistical fiction that they're the ones that are doing everything, that are having the ideas, that are making the creations, and so on and so forth. So
Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness is simple for the simple and is complicated for the complicated. You know, the whole society is so complicated. We have to invest so much money and so much time in so-called education and technology and getting a job. It's almost like, you mean all I have to do is surrender? No, that's too simple. You mean all this education, all this input, all this energy, and you're just telling me just to surrender? No, it's got to be more than that.
Anyway, Hare Krishna.
Maybe the main disservice that modernization has done is just to make us so complicated ourselves that everything else, all the solutions have to be complicated as well, when in fact, it's very, very simple. Very simple.
Yeah.
And
all right. Thank you. I have to, with a caveat here, I'm a little rusty.
Don't be away for so long in the future.
Well, try not to be.
Just kidding.
But nice to enjoy the beauty of Krishna's creations, the San Juan Islands and the Cascade Mountains. Waking in the morning outdoors is really something. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama
Hari Bo, I'm going to give you a clap here. Anyway, I don't think you're rusty at all, Govinda. That was one of the best kirtans ever.
Thank you so much.
Hey, I also wanted to share, I think that during Bhadra Purnima, which is an auspicious day to give out Srimad Bhagavatams, I read something this morning from the GBC that on that day, 2,300, I think, sets of Srimad Bhagavatam were distributed during Bhadra Purnima. And it says that the normal result of distributing or reading a Bhagavatam on that day is multiplied 1,000 times. So, good news.
Awesome.
I'm looking at next week. The 18th verse is very short, so I suspect we'll spend most of our time on the 19th verse, first chapter, first canto. And just at a glance, it seems to me that the theme is going to be how it is that Krishna consciousness, Krishna himself, and Krishna Katha is ever fresh. How we can do it over and over and over again, cover the same ground repeatedly and never get tired from it. Most people, they sit down with a book and they read it once, they read it from cover to cover, and they never go back to it. So what's different about Krishna topics that we can go back to it over and over and over again and not only not get tired, but be even more enthusiastic as time goes on and as your heart gets purified. So that would seem to me something you can meditate upon throughout the week, and then next Sunday share the fruit of your realizations with us.
Charu Prabhu, what is the verse?
Well, I think there's more of a purport to 19th verse. The 18th verse is very short.
So you want us to prepare for the 19th?
Yeah, think about
Thank you very much.
Come up with the mature fruit of your realizations about that verse. Share it.
I'll try my best.
Okay. Anyway,
Prabhuji,
yes,
if you allow me, is it okay if I can take a couple of minutes? I actually didn't share any realization on the verse. I thought I'll get a turn. So is it okay? Can I take couple of minutes?
We're all ears, Rakeshji.
Haribol. I couldn't resist myself, Prabhuji. So in this verse, the thing that came across me most powerfully is that Krishna cannot be understood by the karmis and the gyanis. And I wanted to share my realization on this part of the Gyani. So in our Salt Lake temple, we performed a play, and our very own Kapil Bhaiya, he was the main lead in that for the Valmiki. So we all see how he was a dacoit and he couldn't even speak the word Ram. And Ram, as we know, is the incarnation of Krishna. So he couldn't even speak the name. But eventually, when he surrendered to his guru, Narada Muni, he told him that you meditate on this name. And when he was not able to pronounce the name Ram, he said you pronounce it the other way, Mara, because he was a dacoit. He used to kill people. And Mara in Hindi, if we go with the literal meaning, that means die. So he was actually meditating Mara, 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 Mara. And when he kept saying, so he had this faith on his guru. He kept saying Mara Mara, and it eventually turned out to be Ram. And he got all the blessings that he eventually went on to be such a learned person that he wrote Ramayana, the whole literature on the Lord Ram, who is incarnation of Krishna. So that means that we don't have to be PhD, we don't have to be learned, and there are so many examples where in the material sense, they are totally illiterate, but they are the actual devotees who got the mercy of their gurus and the Lord, and they advance in the spiritual path. And in terms of karmi, like if we follow the karma kanda, that okay, we have to follow the certain things, and that is the only way you can worship the Lord. But like sometimes I get overwhelmed seeing people that they are like so advanced, and I get scared. I can never be even 1% of their standard of worshiping the Lord. So then I think of myself that should I just be scared and stop it and not do it until I think that I'm ready to that perfection level. But then this pastime keeps coming in my mind. It's again from the pastime of Lord Rama, that there was a devotee, her name is Shabri. So she was instructed by her guru that in that Dwapar Yuga, Lord Ram will come and you will get the chance to serve him. So she used to like decorate the path with flowers. She was waiting for years and years for the Lord to come. And when Lord was in the exile in forest, he visited her, but her enthusiasm to serve the Lord was never low. She every day she will do the same thing. She will clean the whole path, decorate it with flower, and with her full devotion, she'll be ready to serve the Lord. And when she was offering the fruit, there is a fruit in India which is a little tricky. It's hard to just by the looks of it to understand whether it's totally ripe. Otherwise, it's sour and sometimes bitter. So she was offering that fruit to the Lord. So she was actually tasting each fruit before serving the Lord. So she was not so. That story tells me that it's the God sees your devotion and your sincerity to serve. So she was not tasting to insult the Lord. She was tasting because she did not want to feed the Lord any sour fruit that will spoil the whole taste of the Lord. So her intention were neat and clean. She was devotee and she was serving the Lord. Whereas if somebody wants to insult the Lord, then it's an offense. So that is how I try to convince myself that probably I have like all the sins in me, but if for one person I'm trying to serve the Lord, God will understand, because we can cheat the whole world. We can say, oh, we are doing everything fine, but the Lord is always inside our heart. So in the heart, we know whether we are actually serving or we are just showing off. So that's why I try to put together myself and say, okay, even if I might commit some offense, God might forgive me, understand that I'm trying to serve with my true intentions. And even if I'm not 100%, one day, by the mercy of the Lord, by the mercy of all the Vaishnavas here in this call and all the Vaishnavas and the devotees, I might be a little better person one day, and that's why I thought I'll share these two stories. They always like touch my heart, and I thought I should share it. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the opportunity.
Spoke out too, and just as an indicator, if we get on a topic like surrender, and then I ask everyone's opinion on it, sure, give us your opinion on that particular topic. But then if you've prepared something, then just follow in with that. And it doesn't, this is something I learned in interviews with the media. You before you go into an interview, a television or radio interview, you know what you want to say. So it doesn't really matter what question they ask. You make sure that you say what you wanted to say. If you can make it appear like you're answering the question, that's a little better, but that's not as important as communicating what it was that you intended on saying. So don't let me throw you off by asking you a specific question.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. One more learning for the life.
Appear to be responding to the question. That's nice, but whatever you do, make sure that you say whatever it was that you had intended on saying when it comes around to you. Don't be shy, and don't let me derail you either. Okay.
Sure, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, one quick comment. So I was reading the recent edition of BTG magazine, and there are a lot of nice topics to read, but two that I love the most is one is the science of chanting, and the other one is that we were discussing today. It says prepare to go to Krishna, devotional surrender, and embracing of truth. So I suggest that if you all have the magazine, I think those are two good.
Everybody's getting back to God, correct?
Okay. Yes, Prabhuji,
yes,
I have it.
we are very grateful for your subscription on our behalf. Thank you for month after month, you are sending us this. Thank you.
It's the least I can do. I hope to be able to do much more, but it's the very bottom line. All right, thank you so much, and we'll be back next week to talk about the ever freshness of Krishna consciousness.
Namo Namah.